Welcome to R&R Live and Life. We begin this episode as we continue along the Carpentaria Highway from Cape Crawford to Booroloola. Cape Crawford is located 110 kilometres southwest of Booroloola, and although it is situated approximately 120 kilometres from the Gulf of Carpentaria, it is named because it is the northern extremity or cape of the Abner Ranges, named by drover Lindsay Crawford in 1880 when he saw the outcrop of the ranges. The scenery for the leg into Booroloola was interesting. Jump-ups and rocky outcrops herald the lead and zinc-rich lands of the giant MacArthur River mine, visible from the road. The natural landscape, consisting of prominent rock formations, springs, waterholes, wide floodplains and rivers, was remarkable. We passed the turn-off to MacArthur River Station, with the name MacArthur River more synonymous with Glencore's large lead, zinc and silver mine, which sits in the middle of the cattle station. The station is run by Clinton Holdings, a wholly owned subsidiary of Glencore, and is situated in the arms of the spectacular landscape of the Abner Range, with red escarpments, springs, wide floodplains and waterfalls. The 7,000 square kilometre property is covered by wide grass plains near the coast, rough ranges, sandy creeks and large wild rivers. I was excited to see cattle being worked at a set of cattle yards near the highway, drafting, weaning, castrating, branding and vaccinating if needed. Though the job is physically challenging, it is rewarding. It sure brought back memories of yesteryear. Heat, sweat, dust, flies and the loud moan of bellowing cows calling their calves, not to mention the bulls in close proximity to each other displaying their supremacy. Then, not far along, we saw a wild buffalo grazing on the side of the road. About 60 kilometres east of Cape Crawford, we stopped in at Caranbarini Conservation Reserve, a remarkable reserve known for its unique sandstone formations and diverse habitats, all within a small area. Rick and I wandered along one of the trails that led to the lookout at the top of the hill overlooking dramatic sandstone pillars known as the Lost City, which rise up to 25 metres high, and the less dramatic hills and ridges. These formations create a dramatic landscape that is both visually stunning and ecologically significant. This 1,200 hectare reserve is located within the ecological transition zone between the subtropical and semi-arid regions and protects flora and fauna from both these regions. The reserve encompasses a variety of habitats, including sandstone hills, open woodlands, and a semi-permanent waterhole surrounded by riverine vegetation. Two distinct different types of sandstone are found in the reserve. One forms low stony ridges, while the other has weathered to form interesting sandstone pillars, known as Lost City formations. The pillars contrast strongly with the surrounding countryside. They also provide great shelter for wildlife. The semi-permanent Caranbarini waterhole is a refuge for wildlife as the surrounding landscape dries out through the long dry season. About 65 kilometres from Booroloola, we passed the turn-off to the isolated Limmen National Park that features spectacular sandstone formations, numerous river systems and associated wetlands. All roads within the park are unsealed and can be closed due to seasonal flooding. The Roper River Gulf region sits between the wet tropics and the arid zone, with the extensive river systems like the Roper, MacArthur and Robinson. The Gulf region is a remote 186,000 square kilometre area of tropical savanna, sandstone gorges and coastal mudflats, extending east from Katherine to the Queensland border. Centred around the Roper River and the town of Booroloola, this region is dominated by grazing cattle, mining and renowned recreational fishing. We then passed Glencore MacArthur River Mine, southwest of Booroloola, near the Gulf of Carpentaria, located on one of the world's largest deposits of zinc and lead, and includes an open-cut mine and processing facility. Zinc and lead are mined and processed at the mine, and then the bulk concentrate is trucked 120 kilometres to Bing Bong loading facility on the Gulf of Carpentaria. From there, the purpose-built barge called MV Aberi operates a shuttle service from the loading facility to a point 15 nautical miles offshore, where the concentrate is transferred onto overseas bulk carriers, where it is shipped around the world. Before making our way into Booroloola, we made our way over Macarthur River, which flows into the Gulf of Carpentaria at Port Macarthur, to the beginning of the dirt section of the Savannah Way along Wollongong Road. The river basin covers an area of just over 20,000 square kilometres, with the headwaters rising on the northern edge of the Barkly Tablelands. The river has a long tidal estuary which extends inland to the town of Booroloola. After inspecting the start of the road, we made our way back into town, where we spent time checking out the old police station museum. Booroloola is a small isolated township near the Gulf of Carpentaria, 50 kilometres upstream from the sea, located on the Macarthur River. It is about as isolated as any township in the Northern Territory can be. Booroloola lies in tropical Gulf savanna country, which stretches around the Gulf of Carpentaria from North Queensland. It is often cut off, particularly from Queensland during the wet season, when the unsealed road from Normanton and Mount Isa becomes impassable. By 1885, it was decided that town sites on the Macarthur and Roper rivers should be surveyed with a view to establishing ports and supply bases. By 1887, Booroloola was large enough to hold its first race meeting. At that time, the town had a police station built in 1886, a courthouse, 2 hotels, a butcher's shop and a general store, a far cry from what it is today. By 1900, Booroloola had a reputation as a wild frontier town. The drovers moving cattle from the Kimberleys to Western Queensland stopped in the town, and a trade in rum, smuggled from Thursday Island, was established. This illicit trade inevitably attracted criminals, murderers and alcoholics. In 1938, the town was devastated by a cyclone which destroyed a large number of buildings, while more recently, in early 2024, a large group of residents were evacuated due to flooding of the Macarthur River after ex-tropical cyclone Megan. By the 1950s, the town had become an isolated refuge for old bushmen and hermits. After making our way back to Cape Crawford, we spent what was left of the afternoon checking over both the boat and Gidget, as the next day's drive along the Tablelands Highway was said to be rough. The Tablelands Highway, I question the term highway, is apparently 375 kilometres of single-lane sealed road that runs from Cape Crawford to the Barkly homestead on the Barkly Highway. Sealed, you may ask, but I will get to that. Although named as a highway, it is really just a pastoral service road making its way through grazing land. Many kilometres are not fenced, and kangaroos and cattle cross the bitumen with no regard for vehicles, so extreme care is needed as the road is too narrow and unforgiving for a sudden stop or swerve to avoid obstacles. Rick and I were looking forward to it as we last drove this stretch in 1997 and had spent some time discussing what changes may have occurred to the road in all that time. The road serves as a vital, and I mean vital, north-south connection, bisecting the remote Barkly Tablelands pastoral region, linking Central Australia to the Gulf region. It supports essential freight transport, particularly for the cattle industry and the remote township of Cape Crawford and Booroloola. It was also used to transport frozen barramundi south to markets from Booroloola in our day. Primarily constructed as a beef road in the 1960s to enhance road train access for livestock movement, and was officially opened in December 1970. Living on the Barkly, each week we had our mail delivered by road transport along with fresh vegetables, stores and other necessities. After leaving the roadhouse, we passed the Abner Ranges to the east, crossing watercourses with fat cattle and big weaners grazing beside the road, which had recently been graded. The road so far wasn't too bad. We crested one hill only to hit a series of woo buoys before crossing a long floodplain and some causeways with piles of debris caught in the railings. About an hour after Cape Crawford, we came to a newer section of the highway. The need for reliable outback infrastructure across this region of northern Australia really does need to be addressed. There has been very little done to improve the standard since we were here 30 years ago. Apparently, in 2020, an upgrade of approximately 32 kilometres of the route to a 2-lane standard road was completed. Sadly, the recent upgrades, though initially providing some enhancements, were already badly in need of repairs, and I began to wonder what the rest of the 350 kilometres would throw at us. It left a lot to the imagination if this was the upgraded section. Were we in for a very rough ride down the road? We were yet to see any of the occasional overtaking sections that the Transport Department wrote about. We crossed a number of floodways and low-level bridges over creeks such as the MacArthur River and Creswell Creek, through undulating country with some rocky outcrops. It really is remarkable country, while the amount of feed was unbelievable. In the 1960s, when the Beef Road was constructed, the roadworks were faced with significant engineering challenges due to the region's flat, expansive tablelands and seasonal monsoonal flooding, requiring careful site preparations to manage water flow, installing culverts, low-level bridges and floodways at creek crossings, hoping to mitigate inundation risks, while grading table drains ensured adequate drainage on the otherwise level landscape prone to water pooling. We had passed through Malapanya Springs Station, established in 1928, spanning over 4,170 square kilometres, featuring open tussock grasslands of Mitchell grass alongside savanna woodlands of eucalypts such as bloodwood and acacias, with spinifex grasslands on sandier rises interspersed with creeks. In the 1920s, the Barkly Tablelands emerged as a focal point for expansion, with the Australian government promoting pastoral expansion through policies enabling the leasing of Crown land to settlers aiming to develop the region's economy via cattle and sheep grazing on underutilised arid and semi-arid lands. Around 130 kilometres south-southwest of Cape Crawford, we passed the sign to Booroloola Station that lies on the northern portion of the Barkly Tablelands, occupying an area of just over 3,500 square kilometres, and was first settled in 1881. It shares the boundary to the north with Malapanya, to the south and east with Creswell Downs, Brunette Downs to the south, and Anthony's Lagoon to the west. Occupying savanna woodlands, vast gently undulating open plains supporting Mitchell grass on self-mulching cracking clay soils, coolabah and spinifex. Booroloola is managed alongside Creswell Downs and adjoining 6,450 square kilometre property. About midway between Cape Crawford and the Barkly homestead, we passed the junction of the highway with the Barkly stock route, with increasingly undulating terrain, with low hills and rock formations, as well as open plains and iridescent red soils, typical of the region. Further along we passed the sign to Anthony's Lagoon, named for a permanent waterhole in Creswell Creek. When combined with neighbouring Eva Downs, an outstation, occupies an area of 9,349 square kilometres. The two properties are set in the hub on the historic Barkly stock route, being an important watering point on the route. The stations contain black soil plains covered in Mitchell and Flinders grasses, while the red soil country is dominated by spinifex, saltbush and other herbage. The flooded lakes country around the permanent water sources support stands of coolabah, lignum, blue bush, verbium and tussock grasslands. The majority of stock from the stations is trucked out for live export, generally to Southeast Asia. We passed where the ABC Brunette Race Weekend is held each year in June. This historic annual gathering featuring camp drafting, rodeo and horse races was formed in 1910 when three prominent Barkly Tableland cattle stations, Alexandria, Brunette and Creswell Downs, established the Amateur Race Club, with each station providing the first letter of its name to the acronym ABC. There had been a subtle transition from slightly undulating plains to uniformly fat tablelands country as far as the eye could see, dotted with cattle. We were now well and truly on the Barkly. We continued over Brunette Creek through a series of concrete bridges and long floodways before passing the turn-off to Brunette Downs, a massive 12,212 square kilometres cattle station bounded by Rockhampton Downs to the west, Alroy Downs to the south, Meaty Bar and Alexandria to the east, and Creswell Downs to the north. Brunette is located on the typical Barkly tablelands of mostly open black soil downs, Mitchell and Flinders grass pastures, with a range of native grasses and herbs appearing following rain. The ephemeral Brunette Creek, the Playford River, Creswell and Boor Creeks flowing through the property, ending in a lake system, the Brunette Lakes. Three main lakes in the system are Lake Sylvester, Lake de Berg and Lake Corella, and an unnamed basin to their west, linked by a network of interconnected wetlands. The systems make up about 20% of the property, making it ideal fattening country. The station has existed as a pastoral lease since 1883, with its homestead built in 1916. We were now nearing where we had planned to camp at Alroy. What a day it has been! Alroy Downs, occupying an area of around 4,230 square kilometres and is located on a portion of the Playford River that flows into Lake Sylvester system to the north, as well as the portion of Buchanan Creek with drainage areas, Coolabah swamplands and areas of blue bush found in the north of the property closer to Brunette. The vast intertwined cracked black soil channel systems cover much of the country alongside the Playford River and Buchanan Creek, and transforms into a lush green herbage and lignum pastures, providing a massive but temporary surge in biodiversity. We will leave you here at Alroy for this episode. I would like to say it has been the worst road we have travelled. Even the Great Central Road and the Manini Loop were far better. Once a predominantly single-lane seal bitumen surface, but from the Barkly stock route to Alroy, the flood damage has severely degraded the road. I don't know what I had been expecting, but was shocked. As you can see from some of the photos, the road has lots of sections very undulating and pothole filled. What bitumen there was, sometimes extremely narrow, had rough broken edges that were very dangerous. Though the road sign says 110 kilometres, you would have to be off your rocker if you did half that speed. In early 2024, following heavy rain caused significant flood damage, including deep potholes and erosions. Join us next episode as we continue on to Queensland. Cheers for now. Live life to the full. Rick and Rosemary. R&R, living life.